Hey, great. Thanks for joining, everyone. Let's get right into it. Next slide. Doesn't work. What the heck? It doesn't let me do it. Doesn't work. Let's start from the beginning. It still doesn't work. Interesting. No, it doesn't. What the heck? That's a good start. Maybe we need that little window again. Let's see what happens there. No, it still doesn't work. Maybe I messed up the presentation settings. Let's see if that works. It's not. It's okay. Yeah, let's see. Let's go for that one. All right. Just brief intro who we are. We are a team in the T&I area of SAP in the Platform Adoption Advisory, and our mandate is to drive BTP adoption. So we do everything with BTP, use cases, customer scenarios, partner scenarios, everything to drive adoption. And the SaaS topic is one of our topics where we work a lot with CAP, but also a lot of other BTP service, just to show people how to develop SaaS applications on BTP. And we also released some GitHub repositories, some blogs on it. We will show you later where to find these. So next one, brief agenda. What are we going to look at today? So a few basics for those of you who are not into multi-tenancy, just 5 minutes, really quick architecture overview, because we have built this solution on Kyma and Cloud Foundry. So same solution, but 2 different runtimes. And then go into the code, some highlights of our SaaS, multi-tenant SaaS scenarios using CAP, and as said, some links how to get started. Yeah, this is a cool thing. So if you get bored by the theoretical introduction, feel free to try it yourself. One of the things we're going to show you later is a self-onboarding feature to onboard yourself a new SaaS tenant, which we implemented and just recently released a blog post and GitHub on it. So feel free to try, scan it, register, set up an account in our IS. They will be set up, and you will see and be able to set up a new SaaS tenant for yourself based on the application which we show you today. That link will be on each of these slides, so just feel free to type in the link and register on your phone. So multi-tenancy, what's it about? Just super lean introduction. So multi-tenancy is an architecture pattern where a single instance of a resource, for example, a database, in our case HANA, is shared by multiple customers. So it's not one separate HANA instance per customer, but several customers share the same HANA instance, and the customers we also call tenant. That's why it's called multi-tenant. And while multiple customers are using the same computing resources or database, they're physically integrated on the same machine or same database, but logically separated. So we're not going to go into the details for that, but it comes out of the box with HANA using HDI containers. So same database, still data is physically isolated for each tenant. And yeah, okay, that's what the last point also says. And multi-tenancy is commonly used in software as a service scenarios where a software as a service provider offers an application to multiple customers, and that's also where our use case resides from. So we did a POC with the Boston Consulting Group, and they tried to get one of their existing on-premise applications into a multi-tenant SaaS application running on BTP. So they're offering their solution as a SaaS service in the SAP store. Pros and cons, just a few of them. I think it's pretty obvious, like the most beneficial pro is reduced costs. So you can share like an expensive HANA among 100 customers, depends on your use case, but reduced costs, the resources are used more efficiently, so you can get, say, like 100 tenants on one HANA instance. It's easier to maintain. You have one code line, ideally, which you upgrade, update once in a while, like quarterly, weekly, daily, whatever you want, and you don't have like 100 different code lines for each and every customer. And yeah, downsides, for sure, where's light, there's also darkness. The whole thing, if you go for a SaaS application, you get less flexible. So it's a one-fits-it-all approach. You can't go like super customer specific. There is options for extensibility. We will also show that later, but you can't like fulfill every wish and extra wish that a customer might have. Regulatory challenges. So if you want to offer this SaaS solution to multiple customers across the globe, then you might need to comply with regulatory regulatory challenges in the different continents, and integration efforts are not as easy as in a standalone application. Imagine like you need to use SDA, SDI, whatever on a HANA database, which is super easy in a single tenant application, but gets a bit more tricky in a multi-tenant SaaS application where a SaaS instance is shared by multiple customers. CAP, just very brief, like why CAP in the case? CAP is, at least internally, we have the golden path, and I think that's also rolled out anytime soon, set as like the frameworks, CAP and RAP, for building business applications on BTP. And therefore, CAP has out-of-the-box support for multi-tenant scenarios. So most of the essential services, or all essential services like authentication, data persistency using HANA, service manager for setting up HANA instances for your tenants, and all that stuff. It's natively supported by HANA. So it's out of the box in there. You don't have to code that stuff when you onboard a new tenant. So that happens out of the box. And you have this cool MTXS package, this NPM package, which brings a lot of cool features in the multi-tenancy context, like local testing features. You can mock your tenants locally. You can have extensibility options, which we'll see in a few minutes, and feature toggles. So a lot of work put into these topics in the last years and months. And the foundation business technology platform, as we try to drive BTP adoption. So we have this use case for Kyma, Cloud Foundry, which support multi-tenancy. So there's use cases and scenarios, not just ours, but a lot of others that show you how to build SaaS applications or multi-tenant applications in these different runtimes. So even the ABAP runtime supports it. And all these services down here, they also support multi-tenancy out of box, like HANA Cloud, Event Mesh, Destination Service, Custom Main, and so on and so forth. So the essential services for building multi-tenant application are supported, and it's getting more and more each day, each year, each month. And all these frameworks down here. So I recently learned application router they define themselves as a framework. So all these frameworks down here, they also support you in building multi-tenant SaaS applications. So a bunch of services and technologies which can be used to achieve these multi-tenancy concepts on BTP. Okay, then I hand it over to Alper to brief introduction to the architectures.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining for our session. So I will talk about the different architectures, because we have currently we have two different runtime which we can run CAP at the moment, which is Cloud Foundry and Kyma. But when you check the architecture slides, you will recognize something really quick. Architecture is not that different. The components are used are not that different, because BTP multi-tenancy concept is an abstraction. So it's not depending on the runtime, rather it's a BTP concept, platform concept. So on the left hand, what do we have in this architecture and implementation? In short, we have a multi-tenant application, obviously, and we have API service broker. What do I mean by that? It's a multi-tenant backing service which your customers can connect and push data to your solution as API. You are an API provider. So that's what we have, a broker, and we have a custom domain implementation also in Cloud Foundry and Kyma. Both of them exist. We have an in-application user management, basically allows you to define, create users, assign roles from the application, not from directly the cockpit. So in this scenario, customer has no touch to the BTP. So right, so we will have basically code highlights for 5 different topics here. And basically the first one is multi-tenant API service, which contains service broker and backing service implementation, which we did with CAP. Second one is envoy filter rate limiter, which we try to implement an envoy filter rate limiter in our Kyma runtime, which is basically native Kubernetes objects, not extra workload, and it's a tenant-based rate limiting. So what do I mean by that? Let's say you have tenant A, tenant B, and basically they have different rate limits per tenant. So one neighbor of you cannot get so much noisy. That's what it helps. In-app user management, I already told, and software as a service extensibility and tenant onboarding, basically what some of you already tried, right? Already, I guess. So you maybe the next slide. So multi-tenant API service. What do we need to create a backing service? Not talking about the application at the moment. In BTP cloud business technology platform, in our platform, to be able to create a multi-tenant backing service, we need two components. First, a service broker implementation. Second, the backing service itself. So our service broker implementation, luckily, we can already show you here. We already have a package called SAP SBF. So this is already implementing the Open Service Broker API standards. So you don't have to implement anything by yourself. You just need to import this package and update, import this package, so to say, create a container and deploy it for Kyma, or create a build pack and deploy it to Cloud Foundry. Then you have the broker implementation already. And what else? Basically, behind that, with the broker services, the XSUAA broker plan, you can just bind your CAP application to the same XSUAA, so they will work hand to end. At the end, you will have a backing platform service. What's the difference? A multi-tenant application and a backing service. Multi-tenant applications, you subscribe. A backing service, you create an instance. That's the difference. So that's the difference, basically. And this is how we start our broker. And let me show the API briefly. So as you see, we are using the same model from our application. So main application has the same model, and then we are inserting data using this API. But credentials are provided by XSUAA using the broker plan. That's the idea we had here. Second thing is, I can run the video, yeah. This is just creating the service broker instance. So as you see, beside of subscription, we have also here a service instance of our application, which end up in the same source. But let's say you want to connect your S/4HANA and push data, you would use service broker, service instance. But if you want to have user interaction, you would go your subscription. But all of your data will end up in the same database container. That's what's important to consider and understand in this. And as you see, we create a service binding, and with this service binding, basically from even ABAP stack, we create a destination. I think most of you know even better than me. So we can create this destination and then CL ABAP HTTP client and push the data. You can see, I guess, already some of the coding.
But short question, yeah. When you consume it from the ABAP stack, you can provide also basic authentication credentials or only OAuth?
I think our broker at the moment, what we implement is only working with OAuth credentials. I think as XSUAA broker plan doesn't support basic authentication even, but I'm not 100% sure.
But it worked for you with like on a ABAP stack something, S/4HANA?
Yes. 2021, okay. It worked, yeah. That we can confirm. So the second one. So we have most of the time the noisy neighbor problem, as I mentioned before. So let's say we have 5 tenants, and one of them is really nasty. They are doing a lot of stuff, a lot of requests to our application and affecting our other tenants. And this is something we don't want as a provider. We want an equal distribution of the load, right? But in the same time, we don't want to have additional workload. We don't want to pay additional money. Okay, how do we reach this? How do we reach this? This is a bit complex. But in Kyma, and this is where Kyma shines, you can have the ground up touch points to your infrastructure. You can change really things in your infrastructure in network layer or application layer. You can touch a lot in Kubernetes because Kubernetes by design a very extensible platform. So what do we use there? Basically, I can show you the demo. Then I will go to the implementation to give you a better overview. So we have 2 tenants, as you see, I created for the recap. And these 2 tenants are subscribed to the application already. And they subscribe, their rate limit automatically created by application itself. And all the source code is, we will go through it in a second. So on the left-hand side, you see the tenant 1. On the right-hand side, you see the tenant 2. And we will start sending requests with tenant 1 first. And tenant 2 will not be affected by, tenant 2 rate limiting will not be affected by tenant 1. So you see, first started on the left-hand side, sending very primitive GET request 2 by 2. We are rate limited on the left-hand side. And then on the right-hand side is not affected. So it will also have, as you see, separate local rate limiting. And this is natively supported by Kyma. We created a custom Kubernetes object, nothing, no workloads. Since this is a local rate limiting, nothing at the end. So basically what you have is just an additional Kubernetes object with the solution. Okay, so what are the downsides? If you have multiple ingress gateway instance, Istio ingress gateway instance in your Kubernetes, this number of requests you receive will multiply because this is local to that instance. That's the only downside. So you need to decide on your own if you want to go with local limiting. Global rate limiting is also on roadmap, so to say. In-app user management. So I think most of you, maybe even before that, maybe I can show the code of the rate limiter briefly, because it might be also interesting. So rate limiter here is a basic, I implemented as a CDS service, just extension of CDS service, and it creates envoy filter for you on the fly when you subscribe to the application, and then appends the relevant configuration to that envoy filter for that specific tenant. And when you unsubscribe, it removes you automatically from the envoy filter. So if there is no tenant left, it removes the entire filter from your gateway. That's how it works. So you feel free to check the implementation and give it a try. I tried, it worked. And any questions, we are very open. Just shoot it on the open. We are open source. This project is open source, and I think we have already stakeholders. So just create issues, and we will support as much as we can on that manner. And the next thing which we cover is user management in application. I think even our tenants can try at the moment by inviting each other to the application. That should work. Thanks, Jordan. Yeah, that worked already, which is nice. So what we do here, creating a user, for instance, for, oh, is it restarted? Sorry. I'm sorry, I touched success, unfortunately. You manage users and then basically create a user by clicking first name, last name, and so on in the application. And what this does, this will create an IIS user, and in the same time, an XSCAA user, shadow user, and then you will be able to log into the application, but you will not see this. You will not see BTP platform. You will just get a receive mail from IIS. We will see in a second, and you can even assign roles from the application. That's the tricky part. So you can assign XSCAA roles from the app, and then we have a custom check here that to avoid misusage of this role assignment, because our role assignment is this sub-account based. So as you see, user is created and on the XSUAA side, and also created in IIS tenants. So also check that maybe even further. Yeah, it's in the IIS as you see. So same user is also existing in IIS. When deletion happens, also the same process. Delete the shadow user, delete the IIS user. That's basically it. I think the next one, I will give the stage back to my colleague Martin.
Yeah, you were pretty fast actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really good. So I hope we haven't lost the most of you. I know this is more advanced stuff on multi-tenancy, but there's a lot of tutorials on multi-tenancy available. So we hope this is interesting for you and catches your attention on multi-tenancy. So now it gets a little bit easier maybe on the last two topics. One is SaaS extensibility, where we want to show you like a sample, and I hope we can get it working. So let's get started like this. Let's imagine like we have a customer over here, or we have two customers. Let's go to the standard customer first. And that's SaaS. So our solution is called Sustainable SaaS because it's about sustainability. And the application looks a little bit like this here. I hope it works without reloading. Let me better reload. I don't know why I have to reload here. Ah, yeah, log in. Okay. All right. Should work in a second. And you will see like it's a super basic application with some basic features. And what the customer can actually do in the SaaS application, he can create some projects, like here the recap projects, and do some sustainability assessments for certain products. And this is like our base interface. Like, I don't know, they can edit and maintain the project name and put in some, I don't know, products and circularity items. That shouldn't matter for now. But now let's assume like another customer, he's not, for another customer, this is not sufficient. So they need additional information in this kind of UI screen, like a contact person or the validity of the project or of the assessment or any other kind of information. So what CAP offers you in that context is an extensibility concept. And what we see here, and this is also part of our application, I put this into a CAP notebook. We will see in a minute how it works. But let me show you like the structure of such a extension feature. So what you can do is, or what customers can actually do. So each and every customer can deploy and activate a customer-based extension, for example, for database fields, and say, hey, I need additional entities for my personal SaaS tenant, like here the priority of the assessment that we just saw, or the status of the assessment. And then they can say, okay, we just want to have that as part of the assessments entity down here. And yeah, that's what we did. So we added new fields in here, some nodes, wallet from, wallet to. You can even add associations to new entities, which you define up here. You can provide some sample data, which you see here, like low priority, medium, or high priority. And cool other thing is you can even add new Fiori annotations, so you can get new UIs, new components into your existing SaaS tenant, so which purely apply for you, for you as a tenant. So here, for example, I know value helps, and you will see in a minute how that looks like. So we, as a customer in that case, we injected additional UI and additional fields and additional database content into our app. Even I18N files are possible to get some internationalization and stuff. So, but how does it work? So once you developed your SaaS extensions as a customer, what you need to do is you need to get like a, oh, that doesn't, yeah, for sure, that doesn't work. I need to open that in the browser. You need to get a passcode in your browser for your tenant. So you can see we are now in a different tenant, which I created here. We just saw it. So let's assume this tenant here wants to do an extension. So SUSA's extensibility tenant, and we can see his custom subdomain in here. So, and using that custom subdomain, we can get a passcode for this tenant. And this can now be used in the CDS. Pardon? This can be used as part of the CDS login command. And when we do that, CDS authenticates against this tenant and stores this information in locally, so we don't have to do that each and every time. But once this is done, we can pull as a tenant or as a customer so-called base model into our extension folder here. So now we are working in this extension folder, and we see here now like a node modules folder is created in which we see the season file of the current hub model in here. And now all these red lines should, no, they're not yet removed because we need to build it first. But now we can use this base model to build extensions on it. And once we've done it, it's already prepared in this case. What we need to do is a CDS build. And then this extension is being built. And let's hope, no, it's not, yeah, now the red stuff has removed, and we have a complete and working extension model based on our base model, which adds additional entities and additional Fiori annotations and stuff like that. And the only thing we then need to do is we need to do a CDS push, which will automatically push that stuff to my tenant as a customer. So it's not visible to the other tenants. It's stored in my tenant database container in a separate table. And that will take a few seconds. But what we already can do, we can already switch over to this extension tenant, which is here, and see if it worked. So this is the extension tenant, exactly the same subscription, same SaaS application, but now I expect like a different screen and different features compared to the standard one. Let's reload again. I don't know what's going on here.
Incognito, I think.
No, it should work. Maybe it takes a second, but no, there he is. Okay. And let's see how the managed assessment looks like. I already created a project in here. And yeah, you see, here's a new detailed information tab in which this extensibility or this partner who extended or customer extended the solution can now maintain new fields and stuff. Okay, this is a good demo. You can see that we tricked you a little. We already prepared that stuff. So what we did is we actually just overwritten the extension. So it was already there, but we just have overwritten it just to show it to you. And we discussed with the CAP folks, there's maybe a bug on the draft handling here, but let's see if we can get it working. Just refreshing it. I hope it's not down now. No, okay, there it is. It's just a little bit slow.
I think this one is full.
Fingers crossed, it works now. See? Yeah. No. Okay. We'll try one last time. We'll try one last time. So it worked until we did a package upgrade a few days ago. Shouldn't have done that. One last time. No, 684. Okay, one last time. One last time. We still got 15 minutes. Come on, come on, come on. What's it doing? Please. I mean, at least you saw that the new UI is there and there's already data in there. Normally, you should be able to edit it and to see the new sample data which we uploaded, like the priorities. Let's press. Yeah, wow, now worked. So you can see like an association here, which is linking to our existing contacts entity. I said maybe it's a bug, maybe it's our fault. I don't know. We upgraded and shouldn't have done it. So just started testing, and you see like the sample data which we uploaded as a customer because we need these new fields with new data. Well, it from the new, I don't know, notes which you can put in, and as you've seen here in this nice little, let's hope it's not escalating. In the list report, you can see that we also injected these new fields into the existing list report. Like we can enable it here. So this is super dynamic and allows you to inject stuff even into existing UIs as a customer. And yeah, from what I've heard, those folks from Kappa are also working on a business logic extensibility feature, which would even allow you to have like custom handlers as a tenant. So custom logic as a tenant. Let's see when and if it's coming, but sounds promising from what I've heard. Okay, last but not least, so this is the backup video. We don't need that. Tenant onboarding. I don't know if anyone tried, but this is a feature we just recently published because we always got the complaints by customers saying, hey, BTP automation is such a pain, and especially in the SaaS context, we need to set up a new sub accounts and subscriptions and service brokers, and for each and every customer, so much effort. So how can we simplify it? Is there a way? And we look like, is there an easy way to do it, or do we need to call like a million APIs, different APIs, BTP CLI, whatever service managers? And finally, what we found was the BTP setup automator we used in that use case. We are working on a transformation to the Terraform provider, which will be officially supported, but it's not supporting our full use case yet. That's why we have the BTP setup automator in this scenario. You can also find it online. And what are we actually doing? It's pretty nice. If you tried the app, you've seen it. So what's happening under the hood is, I just need to find it here, our onboarding folder. And whenever a customer is subscribing to our app, I hope we can see it here. What we actually do is we hit this endpoint, or the subscriber hits this endpoint here, onboard tenant, and what we get is the user ID of the central IIS instance which we're using. So this is centrally used by all tenants. And what we do is we get the user ID of the registered user who self-registered him ideally for that tenant, or we registered him. And what we do then is, if we scroll a little bit down, we do a little bit here of crypto stuff to get a unique ID of that user. Somehow it's not necessary. We could also use the email address probably, but I don't know how this would end up with the sub account names and stuff. But this is essential here. What's happening here? So what we do is we are in a Kyma context. We are working on providing that for Cloud Foundry too. But what we do is we spin up a new BTP setup automator instance in Kyma as a job. And if you use BTP setup automator, you might be familiar with that stuff. If not, BTP setup automator allows you to set up BTP scenarios in a very easy fashion, just defining what you need, services, subscriptions, additional commands. And I think the foundation is a Go or whatever. I'm not sure. So they're consuming the BTP CLI, CF CLI. So it's all packed in that BTP setup automator, and you just need to define what you need. And then BTP setup automated will take care of the rest, set up trusts and assign role collections to users and all that stuff. And that's what we see here. So what we actually do is we subscribe to our custom SaaS application. We put in the name of the tenant as a subdomain for the sub account, which we create for the tenant. Same for the subdomain. We add some labels so that we know, okay, this tenant belongs to the following user or to the following IIS user and stuff like that. And then BTP setup automator will be spinned up in a new pod as a container in Kyma. And we will see in a minute how that looks like. I've got a little sample here because it takes too long if you do the whole process. So let's imagine if you've done it, you've seen that screen. It's like a user registers himself in the IIS. So I'll jump over it, sets a password using our public homepage of our app. So then we switch over to the super serious email provider here, where we get like, hey, you registered for that app. Please activate your IIS account. And once the user activated his IIS account, what he can do, or what we can do, we can see in the IIS, hey, that user was created. He verified his email. He's eligible to set up a new tenant himself in our app. So super simple verification could be made much more difficult, but just for a simple use case. So what the user can do then is he switches over to the application and he will see the following screen after he logged in with his IIS credentials. And now he can trigger this onboarding here. I hope it's not too small. I'll zoom it. And what will that do? This will go to Kyma, or we will go to Kyma here and see that a new tenant or a new job is created, which will spin up a new pod in which the BTP setup automator is running based on the details of the user. So in this case, we only take the username, the user email address to assign the right roles. But you see here in the logs in Kyma, so the BTP setup automator is set up and it's running through. It's creating a subscription, it's creating a sub account, it's assigning the roles, it's creating the trust to IIS, it's configuring IIS login correctly. It's doing a bunch of stuff which will take you probably days to implement that yourself. And we hope also that Terraform will make it even easier than using BTP setup automator in the future. But as of now, not all the features that we need are supported by the Terraform provider. But fingers crossed that will happen soon. So, and what's the result in the end? You will see, like for this tenant that just signed up for a new subscription, a new sub account is being created on the BTP side in my provider environment. Then what we also do is we create a service broker. No, that's done during the subscription, but we create a service instance and we create a service key for the customer so that they can automatically also use the API to interact with the SaaS offering that we have here. We set up the IIS trust, which we need for login. We disable shadow user creation and a lot of stuff which happens automatically under the hood based on our configuration of the BTP setup automator. And once this is done, the user will see the following screen. So he will be able to access his actual SaaS application, but cool thing, he will also be able to access the platform as that's required. And why could that be required? We see it here. Like in this case, the user is able to log in to the BTP platform even of his SaaS tenant. And who could imagine for what that could be useful? For example, or destination. So we only assign the viewer role, and the viewer role allows him to maintain destinations, for example. We see that here. So the user or the tenant could now maintain his destinations in his SaaS sub account to, I don't know, provide his S/4HANA cloud credentials in here, but he couldn't add new services, subscribe to another offering or whatever. So this is pretty cool. Or what he can also do is he can just directly access the SaaS application and we'll see the app. Same for offboarding. So which will also spin up a new Docker container, BTP setup automator, and just delete the whole sub account again. So yeah, we can only suggest check it out. We will try to provide it for Cloud Foundry too. And once the BTP Terraform provider is capable of solving the whole scenario, we will probably also provide a Terraform provider for setting up SaaS subscriber sub accounts. How to get started? If you're interested in these topics, here are some links. As we said, we've published subsamples, GitHub repositories for Kyma and Cloud Foundry. We've published a lot of blog posts. One on the topic I just mentioned, self-onboarding, one domain concept, which is also super interesting, like offering your customers a SaaS solution, not with each and every customer having a separate subdomain, but each customer using the same domain. And we had a very naive and primitive idea how to handle it with a cookie in the background. I'm pretty sure that the folks here, you've got much better ideas how to handle it, but that was just a theoretical idea how to do it. And it worked out. And a cool comparative analysis that Alper created, who compared Kyma and Cloud Foundry, when to go for which environment. We love the Kyma environment, just to tell it. It's amazing, really. And yeah, get started with the links up there. That will lead you to the main blogs that we've written on both runtimes. And that will allow you to set up the scenarios in your free tier or even trial accounts for free.